3:41 p.m. local time. The Caribbean is quiet, almost too quiet. From the deck of a U.S. aircraft carrier operating in international waters, the horizon looks harmless. Blue water, clear sky, routine flight operations. To anyone without training, it would seem like an ordinary afternoon. But at sea, danger is not measured by what people can see. It is measured by what the systems detect. Deep inside the ship, in the Combat Information Center, radar displays glow with their usual steady rhythm. Contacts move across the screens in familiar patterns. Civilian traffic, distant weather, nothing unusual until the picture changes. A new group of contacts appears at high altitude. Fast, clean, military, 5 of them. The watch officer leans in. Speed climbs. Altitude begins to drop. These are not civilian aircraft. These are fighter jets closing in rapidly from the south. The bridge is informed at once. No shouting, no panic, just calm confirmation. The carrier does not alter course. It does not need to. This ship is not operating by itself. At the center of a fully integrated strike group, the carrier is surrounded by destroyers, cruisers, submarines, airborne surveillance, and satellites, all linked into one network. Every mile of sky around it is under watch. Every signal is being captured. Every movement is being assessed. The approaching aircraft are identified quickly. Venezuelan Air Force F-16S. Older jets, only partially modernized, kept flying through careful upkeep and improvisation. On paper, they are still among Venezuela's most capable fighters. In practice, they represent something else just as much as military power: symbolism. For Caracas, these aircraft are tools of messaging, meant to project defiance, resistance, and relevance. Tension in the Caribbean has been rising quietly for weeks. U.S. naval activity in the region has increased. Drug interdiction missions have intensified. Smuggling routes once treated as reliable have been disrupted. Each move has been lawful. Each message has been unmistakable. Venezuela has noticed. Military analysts know this pattern well. When a smaller power cannot match capability directly, it often tries to close distance instead. Low passes, sharp maneuvers, encounters designed to provoke a response and create a dramatic image. But the U.S. Navy does not act on impulse. It acts on doctrine. As the 5 F-16S continue inbound, the strike group remains steady. No sudden launch, no abrupt turn, no visible escalation. Everything is recorded, everything is observed. On the flight deck, sailors pause and look up. Most are not alarmed. More than anything, it is professional curiosity. They have seen this kind of moment before. Beneath their feet is a ship of more than 100,000 tons, built to absorb pressure of every kind, physical and political. Inside the Combat Information Center, the flow of information grows denser. Radar signatures, speed profiles, altitude changes, electronic emissions. The fighters are active now, radars on, radios live, engines pushed harder as they descend. Every signal adds another piece to the picture, and the closer they get, the clearer that picture becomes. What the pilots likely see as a show of strength, the carrier sees as a stream of valuable information, patterns, frequencies, behavior under real stress, the kind of material no training scenario can fully recreate. The Venezuelan jets keep dropping lower. This is not a distant pass. It is deliberate, aggressive, calculated. Still, the carrier holds course. This is the kind of moment where miscalculation can begin. One aircraft a few degrees off, one lock misunderstood, one pilot reading restraint as hesitation. But the Navy has learned across decades of operations that escalation almost always favors the impatient. As the distance closes, the situation sharpens. The airspace around the carrier is no longer empty. It is filled with intent, risk, and a dense web of sensors capturing every second. 5 fighters, 1 carrier, only moments from the next move. And the most important part of the encounter has already started, even if the Venezuelan pilots do not realize it yet. The first jet breaks formation. On radar, the shift is immediate. One contact accelerates, nose down, altitude dropping fast, then another follows, then another. Within seconds, all 5 F-16S abandon level flight and roll into a steep descent. This is no routine flyby. In the Combat Information Center, the tracking symbols change. Speed vectors stretch. Closure rates rise. The systems do not guess. They calculate. And the calculation is simple. The aircraft are diving directly toward the carrier group. From the bridge, the sea still looks calm and unchanged. But now the sound arrives. At first, faint, then unmistakable. A low, rising roar carried over the water by engines pushed hard beyond normal cruise. Flight deck crews look upward as dark shapes cut across the sky. The F-16 is still a fast, highly agile jet, and its pilots are using every bit of that performance. Engine output surges. Heat signatures spike. The fighters drive downward through the air at high speed. From the cockpit, it likely feels forceful, dramatic, the kind of move that should demand a reaction. But the carrier does not react. No alarms echo across the deck. No scramble order is shouted. The ship does not turn toward the threat. It does not turn away. It stays on its planned course and speed, because long before the jets came into view, they were already being tracked. Within the carrier's layered defensive network, everything is active, but almost invisible. Long-range radar continues to paint the sky. Passive systems listen. Electronic warfare equipment records emissions without announcing itself. This is not the moment for noise. It is the moment for clarity. As the fighters descend, they begin to spread out laterally, setting up for a more dramatic pass. One angles toward the bow. Two move toward the starboard side. The final pair hangs slightly higher, watching from above. It is classic intimidation geometry. The closest jet flashes over the flight deck low enough for sailors to make out its markings. The pass is fast, loud, and clearly intentional. The air itself seems to ripple with the pressure of it. It is meant to dominate the moment. But dominance depends on control, and control is exactly what the pilots do not fully have. Every radar sweep from those aircraft is being captured. Every radio call is being recorded. Every change in engine output. Every shift in altitude. Every correction made under pressure. It is all usable information. One jet drops lower than the others, skimming well beneath its wingman. For a brief instant, the geometry tightens and the margin for error becomes razor thin. At that speed, even a small mistake could turn serious in an instant. Still, the carrier offers no visible response. That is not hesitation, it is discipline. The Navy's rules of engagement are clear, but beyond that, they are strategic. Force is not the first option. It is the last one, especially when the more important objective is to avoid escalation while preserving the advantage. And with every second, that advantage is growing. The Venezuelan pilots may think they are pressuring the carrier. From the carrier's perspective, the jets are exposing themselves. Their methods, their limits, their dependence on intimidation rather than coordination. As the fighters reach the bottom of their dives and level out, they begin to climb again. The formation is looser now. Their pass did not trigger the response they were likely expecting. No abrupt course change, no visible shift in posture, no emotional radio challenge, just silence. That silence carries weight. For the pilots, it creates uncertainty. Did the message land? Did it matter? Or did they misread the situation completely? As the F-16 pull away, the carrier remains exactly what it was a few moments earlier. Massive, steady, and unmoved. But beneath that calm surface, the encounter has already changed shape. What began as a performance of bravado has become something much more significant. Because the dive is over, and now everything those jets revealed on the way down belongs to the U.S. Navy. By the time the Venezuelan aircraft begin their climb, the most important phase of the encounter is already complete. Nothing dramatic happens in the way an outside observer might expect. No projectiles leave their rails, no explosions, no chaos on deck. From a distance, it might seem as if nothing happened at all. That would be the wrong conclusion. Inside the strike group's network, the airspace is alive with information. Every second of the approach has been captured, categorized, and archived. Not as spectacle, but as data. Modern naval competition is not decided by who flies closest. It is decided by who reveals the most. During the dive, the F-16 spoke loudly through their systems. Fire control radar sweeps, navigation adjustments, radio chatter between cockpits and ground controllers. Engine signatures shifting as power settings changed. Each of those actions leaves its own fingerprint. The carrier's sensors do not need to advertise themselves to listen. Passive detection systems quietly gather radar waveforms. Electronic support measures identify frequencies, repetition intervals, modulation patterns. The emissions are compared against known libraries and refined in real time. This is more than observation. It is understanding. Every aircraft has a signature. The way its radar behaves under pressure. The way its pilot communicates during aggressive maneuvering. The way engine performance changes when it is pushed hard near the surface. The Venezuelan pilots believe they are projecting power. In reality, they are broadcasting, and the closer they come, the more detailed the signal becomes. One jet briefly spikes its radar as it tries to measure distance more precisely. Another corrects altitude sharply after turbulence near the sea. A third trails the formation by a fraction of a second during the pull-up. Small details, human details. But professional militaries know that important advantages are often found in exactly those margins. Inside the Combat Information Center, analysts watch the patterns take shape. This is not the first encounter with Venezuelan aircraft, but it is one of the clearest. Training flights cannot reproduce real uncertainty. Exercises cannot fully recreate real pressure. But this moment can. The information flowing in now is the kind that cannot be bought, guessed, or simulated. It has to be given, and the jets are giving it freely. As they climb away, their emissions begin to soften. Radar modes change, radio traffic quiets. The performance is ending, but the exchange has already happened. The carrier never needed to fire because this was never truly about destroying aircraft. It was about seeing them clearly. Naval doctrine contains an old but enduring principle: escalation dominance. The ability to control the pace of a confrontation without needing to announce that control at all. The Venezuelan pilots came in close, fast, and loud. They forced proximity, they forced attention. What they did not force was fear. The strike group did not react because it did not need to. It had already gained something much more valuable than a visible tactical response. It had learned. From this moment on, those F-16S are no longer unknown variables. Their behavior under pressure has been recorded, their system characteristics refined, their tactics observed in real conditions. If they ever appear again, in a different context or at even closer range, the Navy will not be seeing them for the first time. It will be the second. And in military encounters, the second meeting almost always favors the side that listened the first time. As the last jet fades into the distance, the Caribbean returns to a calm blue. Deck crews go back to work. Aircraft handlers resume signaling. Operations continue without interruption. To a casual observer, it looks like restraint. To professionals, it looks like a quiet win. Because sometimes the most decisive moment in a confrontation is not the one filled with noise. It is the moment one side realizes, too late, that it has already shown its hand. As the Venezuelan F-16 disappear into the distance, no pursuit follows. No American fighters rise dramatically from the deck. The strike group does not tighten into some visible defensive posture or issue warnings over open frequencies. It simply continues doing what it has done since the first radar contact appeared. It remains steady. To someone unfamiliar with naval operations, that stillness could be misread. Silence can look like hesitation. A lack of movement can be mistaken for uncertainty. Inside the strike group, it means the opposite. The Navy's response to provocation is not built on emotion. It is built on control. Control of space, control of information, and above all, control of escalation. As the jets withdraw, carrier sensors continue to track them until they fade beyond effective range. Every heading change is logged. Every reduction in speed is noted. The encounter is not truly over when the aircraft leave. It ends when the information stops. On the bridge, reports continue to arrive. There is no serious debate about whether to respond with force. That question was settled long before the jets appeared. The rules are explicit, but the doctrine behind them runs deeper. You do not escalate when escalation serves the other side. For Venezuela, the objective was straightforward. Trigger a reaction, create dramatic imagery, build a narrative of defiance, turn proximity into propaganda. The Navy denies them all of it. No dramatic footage of fighters launching in response. No hostile radio exchange. No visible shift into a posture that could be clipped, edited, and replayed. All that remains is 5 jets passing by a ship that never flinched. That absence is intentional. Within the strike group, readiness remains high but discreet. Air assets remain available beyond the horizon. Subsurface elements continue their silent watch. At no point is the carrier actually exposed. It simply does not need to advertise its preparedness. This approach reflects decades of experience. From Cold War standoffs to modern gray zone confrontations, the Navy has learned that visible reactions often reward provocation. Silence, by contrast, places the pressure back on the other side. For the Venezuelan pilots heading home, the most uncomfortable question is the simplest one. Did it work? They came in close, they were loud, they were aggressive, and yet the target never changed course, never answered in the way they expected. In military terms, that is deeply unsettling. Because when a force built to dominate its environment chooses not to display that dominance, it suggests something more powerful underneath. Confidence, preparation, the certainty that escalation is a choice, not an obligation. Back aboard the carrier, operations continue exactly on schedule. Aircraft are moved, fuel lines are checked, maintenance crews cross the deck with the same rhythm they had before the encounter. Nothing has changed, and that, more than anything, is the message. The Navy does not need to prove its presence through reaction. Its presence is already assumed, its capability already understood, its restraint entirely deliberate. Strategically, this is escalation control at its highest level, absorbing pressure without echoing it back, letting the other side expend effort while you retain the initiative. The Venezuelan jets are gone, but their decision to approach, dive, and provoke has not been ignored. It has been processed, integrated into planning, folded into readiness, added to future responses that may never need to be publicly acknowledged. So the encounter ends not with a chase or a warning shot, but with quiet entries in logs and databases. The U.S. Navy did not fire because it did not need to. In this confrontation, silence was not the absence of power. It was proof of it. By evening, the Caribbean looks the same as it did before. Calm water, open sky, shipping moving through international waters. To anyone far away, the afternoon seems to have left no visible mark. No smoke, no debris, no dramatic scene burned into the horizon, but encounters at sea are rarely measured by what the water shows afterward. They are measured by what changes beneath the surface. Inside the strike group, the event is already shifting from real-time tracking into long-term analysis. Data from the dive is being reviewed, compared, and distributed. Radar signatures are refined, communication habits cataloged, tactical behavior studied with no emotion and no exaggeration. This is how modern naval power compounds itself. The Venezuelan pilots likely returned to base believing they completed their mission. They closed distance, they showed presence, they demonstrated resolve. On paper, the sortie may be marked as a success, but presence alone does not change the balance. What they cannot see is what the other side gained. From now on, those aircraft are no longer theoretical threats. They are known quantities, response times, formation discipline, system behavior under pressure. All of it now exists as reference material for future planning, and that kind of knowledge does not fade quickly. In the days that follow, U.S. operations in the region continue unchanged. The carrier remains on station. Patrol routines stay steady. There is no surge to advertise dominance, and no withdrawal to suggest retreat. That consistency is part of the message. Strategic messaging does not always come in the form of force. Sometimes it comes in the form of continuity. A simple, unmistakable signal. Nothing you did changed our mission. For Venezuela's leadership, that is not easy to turn into a convincing narrative. Provocations are designed to create reaction. When the reaction never comes, the story begins to collapse inward. The question stops being, did we challenge them? And becomes, why didn't they respond? That question matters, because a force that does not react publicly is often a force that does not need to. Military history is full of moments when escalation looked inevitable, right up until one side chose restraint and, by doing so, denied the other side its objective. This was one of those moments. No wider confrontation followed, no retaliation was necessary, and yet the balance still shifted, quietly but unmistakably. Not through intimidation, but through discipline. The carrier strike group demonstrated something stronger than aggression: control. Control of sensors, control of information, control of tempo, and ultimately, control of the story. The Venezuelan jets dove towards steel and silence, expecting acknowledgement. What they received instead was analysis, and that difference matters. In future encounters, whether days from now or years from now, the Navy will remember this flight. The information gathered here will shape decisions the public may never see. The pilots involved may never fully realize how much they revealed in those few seconds over the Caribbean. But naval professionals will understand exactly what happened. Power is not always defined by what you do in the moment. Sometimes it is defined by what you gain without acting at all. As the carrier continues its patrol, the lesson settles where it belongs, inside doctrine. Provocation does not automatically deserve response. Noise is not leverage. And restraint, when backed by overwhelming capability, is not weakness. It is dominance. 5 fighter jets dove toward an American aircraft carrier, hoping to make a statement. What followed was quieter, colder, and far more decisive.